When my officer husband Retchen slapped me to the ground, 3 months pregnant, for the sake of his savior Leah's son, after 8 years of blindly adoring Retchen, I suddenly woke up. I calmly went to the hospital to terminate the pregnancy, severing the last thread tying me to Retchen. A year later, Retchen finally remembered me, his so-called wife who had been carrying his child. He came carrying bags of gifts, wanting to see me and his child. I laughed. You divorced me to marry another woman. Why would I keep your child just to disgust myself? I've been reborn. I was reborn on the day my military officer husband, Retchen, gave all the money I had saved for childbirth to his savior, Leah's son, to buy appliances, watching the large color TV, refrigerator, and washing machine being moved into Leah's son's house next door. I finally realized the money I had saved for childbirth was gone. It felt like a bolt from the blue. I went to confront Retchen, only to see Leah's son coyly nestled in his arms. Witnessing such intimacy between my husband and another woman, I trembled with rage. I stepped forward and demanded Retchen account for my missing money. From his embrace, Leah's son answered in a sickly sweet voice. Ret gave all the money to me to buy appliances. Staring at Leah's son's smug face, my fury reached its peak. How can you be so shameless? Instead of earning your own money, you just think about spending someone else's. Leah's son cried, her face into a mess from grievance, while Retchen's eyes turned red with anger, forcing me to apologize. How could I possibly apologize? Ever since Retchen transferred Leah's son to the military district to be his confidential secretary, everything had turned upside down. Retchen would frequently go to help Leah's son, with buying rice and flour being a common occurrence, whether Leah's son had a headache or a fever. Retchen was always on call. Even in the middle of the night during a thunderstorm, Leah's son could knock on his door wrapped in a blanket and take Retchen away to accompany her. As for me, his wife of 3 years, Retchen treats me like air. Anger and resentment filled my heart, especially when I saw Leah's son shamelessly throw herself into Retchen's arms right in front of me, his wife. As a provocation, I grew even more furious. You shameless pair, full of deceit and illicit affairs. I'll report you to the military leadership. As my words fell, Retchen suddenly lashed out and struck me hard across the face. I was knocked to the ground by that slap, my head hitting the cabinet in Leah's son's house with a heavy thud. Blood gushed out, and as I lay on the floor, a flood of bewildering memories surged through my mind. It turned out Retchen didn't just give all the money I'd saved for childbirth to Leah's son to buy appliances. He even gave the apartment allocated by my workplace to Leah's son. I cried and made a scene, but it was all in vain. Leah's son is vicious and despicable, constantly scheming and plotting against me. Meanwhile, Retchen blindly trusts Leah's son. After being manipulated by her once again, Retchen used the excuse of his elderly and frail parents needing care to send me back to his hometown thousands of miles away to look after them. In the countryside, I toiled tirelessly, bearing children and caring for his parents, longing day and night for our reunion. Retchen's official position grew ever more prominent, yet he never once considered bringing me back to him. It wasn't until his parents passed away one after another that I went to find Retchen, only to realize I had long since had no connection with him whatsoever. We had already divorced and become strangers from the moment he sent me back to the countryside. After sending me away, he couldn't wait to marry Leah's son, holding a grand wedding ceremony for her. He and Leah's son lived together day and night, deeply in love forever. Leah's son couldn't bear children, so the child I bore and raised with hardship became theirs. Seeing my aged and haggard self at his doorstep, Retchen avoided me, while Leah's son brought my biological son to meet me, dripping with jewels. Leah's son tossed a stack of money at me as if I were trash. Myra Moo. All these years Ret only used you as a free nanny. I am his rightful and lawful wife, so get lost wherever you came from. My own flesh and blood, my son, also said, Mom, look at what you've become now. You're no longer worthy of Dad. Take the money and leave. I'll send you money every month for your retirement. But on one condition, never show your face in front of our family again. My entire life turned out to be a joke, exploited for others' benefit. The man I deeply loved treated me as a free maid, and even my own son despised me. Overwhelmed by rage and grief, I spat blood and died from sheer fury. Memories of my past life and the present events flashed alternately in my mind. Lying on the ground, I stared fixedly at Retchen and Leah's son. Perhaps the hatred and fury in my eyes were too intense. Retchen, who had been busy comforting the weeping Leah's son, finally spared a glance at me, lying on the ground, bleeding. Seeing my swollen face and bleeding forehead, Retchen froze in shock. He finally remembered that I was a pregnant woman, and Retchen released the sobbing Leah's son to help me up. A surge of hatred filled my heart, and I mustered all my strength to push away his supporting hand. Get away from me. Retchen didn't leave. Instead, he helped me up from the ground. You're bleeding. Let me take you to the hospital to get it treated. Didn't you hear me tell you to get lost? If you hadn't been spouting nonsense, I wouldn't have hit you. I just lost my temper. This is entirely your fault. Let's go to the hospital first to treat the wound. We'll talk about apologies later. As he spoke, he ignored my struggles and forcibly carried me in his arms, preparing to take me to the hospital. At that moment, Leah's son suddenly collapsed weakly to the ground. Seeing Leah's son faint, Retchen immediately let go of me and rushed toward Leah's son. Leah, what's wrong? Wake up. Don't you know Leah has a heart condition and can't be stressed? It's all your fault, he shouted at me in a fit of rage, then called for security. Xiao Li, drive her to the hospital right now. Retchen rushed out anxiously holding Leah's son in his arms, and his guard Xiao Li immediately drove over upon hearing the commotion. Retchen got into the car with Leah's son and ordered the guard to drive, completely forgetting about me with my bleeding forehead. The car roared away, and I wiped another trickle of blood from my forehead before staggering back to the house next door. After bandaging my bleeding forehead in front of the mirror, I quietly began to recall my past life. In my previous life, after Retchen hit me, he also ignored my bleeding and only cared about Leah's son who was pretending to faint. Filled with anger and hatred, I rushed to the hospital and caused a scene. The consequence of this was Leah's son having a heart attack and being hospitalized for half a month. As for me, Retchen placed me under house arrest. Because I was pregnant, Retchen didn't confine me, but he did arrange for guards to watch me around the clock. The guard named Xiao Li is from the same hometown as Leah's son and always takes her side. He feigns compliance while acting in opposition, deceiving superiors and subordinates alike. His attitude toward me was very harsh, giving me only one meal a day, 2 hard buns and cold water. By the time Leah's son was discharged from the hospital, I was emaciated from starvation, reduced to skin and bones. Xiao Li claimed I was refusing to eat or drink, and Retchen believed it without question. When you see me, there's not a shred of comfort, only scolding, calling me unrepentant, telling me to hurry up and die if I want to. He also warned me, saying a shrew like me who causes trouble isn't worthy of being his wife. And if I keep making a scene, he'll divorce me. I love Retchen desperately, and hearing him threaten divorce scared me out of my wits. To prevent Retchen from divorcing me, I didn't dare cause any more trouble, but my forbearance changed nothing. Leah's son kept provoking me every other day, flaunting how much Retchen cared for and liked her. I was so infuriated by Leah's son's words that I inevitably got into another argument with her. Leah's son set me up once again. She deliberately rolled down the stairs herself and falsely accused me of pushing her. Leah's son is hospitalized again, this time claiming that I pushed her, causing uterine damage that left her permanently infertile. I explained to Retchen that I didn't push Leah's son. She framed me and staged the incident herself, but Retchen didn't believe me. He told me I would face jail time for intentional injury. I was terrified. Later, Retchen approached me again, saying he had connections to keep me out of jail. Retchen asked me to return to the countryside to care for his parents, promising to bring me back after I gave birth and the matter was resolved. I had no choice but to agree to Retchen's suggestion. On the day of my departure, Retchen made me sign an apology agreement. I believe Retchen had me sign the so-called apology agreement and then sent me to the countryside. This departure lasted over 30 years. At first, I planned to return to Retchen's side after giving birth, but his mother suffered a cerebral hemorrhage and became bedridden, requiring care. In order to fulfill my filial duties for Retchen, I had no choice but to stay in the countryside. Over these 30 years, Retchen only returned a few times to visit his parents. He even took our son to live with him, claiming it was to lighten my burden. I didn't learn the truth until I was on my deathbed. The so-called apology agreement I signed back then was actually a divorce agreement. Retchen married Leah's son within 3 months of sending me to the countryside. He even threw a grand wedding for Leah's son. Since then, I've been treated as their unpaid old servant, wasting over 30 years of my life. The thought of it makes my blood boil. If I could do it all over again, whoever wants to be that old servant can have the job. I'm not doing this anymore, damn it. I'll abort this bastard child with a wolf's heart and dog's lungs in my belly. Retchen wants a divorce, and I'll grant him his wish. In this lifetime, I'm leaving this pair of scumbags behind to live my own life. Since I'm leaving, I'd better prepare for a rainy day. I've secured some benefits for myself first. The money I saved for having a child has already been given by Retchen to Leah's son to buy household appliances. There's hardly any money left at home now. But next month is Retchen's birthday, and I've prepared a watch as his birthday gift. The watch can be sold first. Additionally, my salary for this month hasn't been paid yet, and I won't be handing it over. Also, when Retchen and I got married, I joyfully prepared a pair of gold rings. Retchen found them childish and never wore his, which now conveniently allows me to sell the rings. By this calculation, I can still get back about $1,000, which is enough for my abortion and recovery. Right now, the top priority is the apartment allocated by my workplace. In my previous life, the apartment my unit assigned me was directly given to Leah's son by Retchen. This time, there won't be such a good deal. I need to sell the apartment first and get some cash. Clutching the watch and gold ring, I rushed to my workplace without caring about my disheveled appearance or the injury on my head. Seeing me in this state, my supervisor was quite surprised and asked what happened. I didn't say much, just told my supervisor, I'm short on money now, and I plan to transfer the house allocated to me. Could you help me find a buyer? The price is negotiable. I've always been a nice guy at work, getting along well with both my supervisor and colleagues. My supervisor agreed to ask around for me, and only then did I go to sell the watch and gold ring. The watch was brand new and unused. I happened to meet a newlywed couple and sold it to them for 50 yuan less than what I had paid. I pawned the ring, which weighed a total of 18 grams, for less than 1,000 yuan. With the money from the watch and the ring, I went to the hospital and directly sought out an obstetrician-gynecologist to explain my purpose. Retchen and I have been married for 5 years, but we've never been able to conceive. Because of my worries, I often visit the doctor. The doctor knew me very well and, seeing that I wanted to terminate the pregnancy, earnestly tried to persuade me otherwise. My mind was made up. But in the end, the doctor still refused to perform the surgery for me. She told me to get Retchen's signature for the procedure, as Retchen is now the leader. Without his approval, if I went ahead and terminated Retchen's child, she would face consequences and disciplinary action. The pregnancy wasn't terminated, and I was in a very bad mood. On the way back, I was thinking about how to get Retchen to sign the papers. In my past life, Leah's son falsely accused me of pushing her and damaging her uterus, making her infertile. Because of this, Retchen divorced me and married Leah's son. This time, I won't wait for Leah's son to scheme against me first. I'll strike preemptively and make this accusation a reality, forcing Retchen to divorce me on his own. Once the divorce is finalized, that heartless bastard will naturally and justly turn into nothing more than a pool of blood. Retchen didn't return until 9 in the evening. By then, I had already eaten, drunk, washed up, and gone to bed. Half asleep, I felt something brushing against my face, which inexplicably filled me with disgust and hatred. I raised my hand and slapped it away. With a sharp smack, my palm stung, and I was fully awake. A clear handprint appeared on one side of Retchen's face. Needless to say, it was from me. At this moment, Retchen glared at me with a livid face. Myra Moo, have you lost your mind? Having known Retchen for 10 years, I had always been gentle, considerate, and eager to please him. It's easy to imagine how Retchen must have felt after suddenly being slapped. I rubbed my numb hand and said, I just fell asleep and dreamed I was being chased. I couldn't tell if it was a dream or reality, so I lashed out. Retchen naturally wouldn't believe my explanation. And I had no intention of making him believe me either. He fumed angrily. I just wanted to see how badly you were hurt, and you actually pretended to be crazy and hit me. Myra Moo, you really are something. Looking at the finger marks on his face, I felt a twinge of regret. I truly wasn't pretending to be crazy. If I had known it was him touching my face, I should have slapped him a few more times. Over there. Retchen grew even more annoyed when he saw I wasn't responding. You actually went to sleep without waiting for me. You didn't even make dinner. I thought you weren't coming back. As for dinner, didn't you eat with Lia-san? Don't you usually have dinner together? A sheepish expression flashed across Retchen's face. I shouldn't have hit you today. I was so angry in the heat of the moment. To be honest, you went too far today. You clearly knew I was just helping Lia-san out of gratitude. And you knew she has a heart condition. How could you say those things about her? So he was still intent on blaming me. I stared coldly at Retchen's handsome face. Before I came to my senses, before I knew the unspeakable things he would do to me, I could never get enough of looking at that handsome face of his. Now that I know what's coming next, I find his face utterly repulsive no matter how I look at it. Retchen, seeing my silence, softened his tone. Leah was wronged because of you. You should go apologize to her tomorrow, and let's consider this matter settled. What if I refuse to apologize? Don't you understand the principle that if you're wrong, you should admit it? I want to know what I did wrong. Don't I have the right to ask for the money back that you took without my permission? Can we just say I borrowed the money from you? Borrowing means repaying. You should return all the money you've borrowed from me before as well, faced with my relentless rebuttals. Retchen's expression became extremely awkward. His salary was already gone between giving money to his parents and Lia-san. Otherwise he wouldn't have needed to touch my money. Retchen took the initiative to grab my hand, trying to coax me with tender affection. I flung it away. Retchen, let's make things clear. Helping Lia-san is your business, and I won't interfere anymore, but you must return every single cent of my money without touching a penny. In the past, I never spoke up when he used my money, which made Retchen take it for granted. Now, seeing how serious I was, he rubbed his nose and said, Myra, we're husband and wife, one body. There is no such thing as husband and wife as one. From now on, if you want to repay her kindness, I won't stop you. I can promise I won't go and cause trouble for Lia-san anymore, nor will I make any comments about your relationship. Just one thing. Give my money back to me. Retchen stared at me intently. What do you mean? I mean exactly what I said. From now on, we'll each live our own lives. If you want to take care of Lia-san, do it yourself. Don't drag me into it. I have no responsibility or obligation to help you take care of Lia-san. In the past, whenever I got angry and made a scene, as long as Retchen softened his tone and coaxed me a little, I would immediately reconcile with him as if nothing had happened. The sudden change, so different from before, made Retchen's expression darken. Myra Moo, do you realize what you're saying? As a military spouse, helping those in need is your duty. Then why haven't I seen you caring about other people in need? There are plenty around here who are worse off than Lia-san. Why aren't you helping them? My retort left Retchen utterly humiliated. With a cold sneer, his face darkened. What nonsense are you spouting now? I've already said there's nothing between Lia-san and me. She saved me back then. And I'm just repaying her. I've heard it so many times my ears have grown calluses. I directly cut him off. Enough, I'm not interested in your affairs with Lia-san, nor will I ever care again. I only have one demand. Return my money to me. How can money that's been given away be returned? Stop being unreasonable. Let me tell you, I know exactly what's bothering you. It's jealousy, isn't it? How many times have I explained? Why won't you listen? Retchen was already extremely impatient. His tone much more severe. Myra Moo, you'd better put away your petty thoughts. I will continue to help Lia-san. If you refuse to listen and keep stirring up trouble at home, don't blame me for being ruthless. I will divorce you. In my past life, Retchen threatened me with divorce, and I was terrified to death. Afraid that Retchen would abandon me. Afraid that I wouldn't receive Retchen's love. In this life, I know Retchen's love was never meant for me. It was always for Lia-san. So what is there left to hesitate about? Without a moment's hesitation after his words, I nodded and said, "Fine, let's get a divorce." My agreement to divorce left Retchen in disbelief. He looked at me as if he'd seen a ghost. "Myra Moo, are you sure you want to divorce me?" "I'm certain," I nodded firmly. "We'll get divorced tomorrow, but before that, you have to return all my money." "Money again? Are you obsessed with it? Is money all you care about?" Retchen asked through gritted teeth. "Yes, money is all I care about." Retchen didn't believe I truly wanted a divorce. "You're utterly unreasonable. Listen, Myra Moo, don't think you can do whatever you want just because you're pregnant. I didn't do whatever I wanted. The child isn't an obstacle, as long as you sign. I'll go to the hospital tomorrow to get rid of the baby." Seeing my resolute expression, Retchen took a few steps back. "Myra Moo, have you lost your mind? How could you even say something like abandoning the child?" My firm stance on divorce left Retchen stunned. In anger, he slammed the door and left. He never came back after that, and I didn't bother about him either, lying down to continue resting. The next morning, I was startled awake by a knock at the door. Retchen's guard, Xiao Li, stood at the door with breakfast in hand. Scowling, "The chief asked me to bring you breakfast." Seeing Xiao Li didn't improve my mood either, and I snapped, "Put it over there." Xiao Li placed the breakfast on the table, his gaze lingering on my face. I glared back coldly. "What are you looking at? You've delivered the stuff. Now get lost." I've always been kind to others and never put on airs, to the point where Retchen's guards have always seen me as an easy target. Especially this Xiao Li, who is from the same hometown as Leah's son and sides with him, has been subtly targeting me all along. Seeing me suddenly so assertive, Xiao Li was startled, then quickly turned furious. "What's with your attitude? Last night you were jealous and drove the chief to sleep in his office. And today, when the chief has humbled himself like this, you still refuse to back down. Let me tell you, Myra Moo, you'd better tone it down. Don't push the chief too far, otherwise you'll be in for more than you bargained for." "Are you threatening me? Who do you think you are? Just a dog by Leah's son's side, yet you act all high and mighty. I'm warning you to show me some respect. Push me too far, and I'll expose all the shady dealings between you and Leah's son." As my words fell, Xiao Li's face turned pale, and without another word, he hurriedly left. Xiao Li's reaction surprised me. I only warned him because I remembered how he helped Leah's son against me in my past life. But judging by Xiao Li's panicked and fearful demeanor, could there really be some unspeakable dealings between him and Leah's son? I secretly became alert in my heart. After breakfast, I went to the office again to see my boss, who told me that a colleague wanted my housing allocation quota. However, the other party currently doesn't have much money and can only offer me 4,000 yuan. I knew that housing prices would rise in the future, and 4,000 was indeed too little. I simply had no other choice. The house absolutely couldn't be sold cheaply to Leah's son. I agreed to the deal, accepting $4,000 to transfer the housing allocation to the other party. Since I'm getting divorced from Retchen, there's no way I can continue living here. I'll have to quit my job too. Thinking about the developments 30 years from now, I quietly began forming a plan in my mind. I need to leave this place, head south to do business, and be among the first to get rich. In my mind, I planned to return home soon. Pushing open the door, I was surprised to find Leah's son sitting in my living room. Seeing me, Leah's son flashed a sarcastic smile. "Oh, the busy man has finally returned. Huh, what are you doing here? Come to see you. You got beaten black and blue by Rhett and were bleeding. As a neighbor, how could I not come to check on you?" Leah's son circled around me with a smile, lowering her voice viciously. "Why don't you just die? How dare you play the reverse psychology card by asking for a divorce? Do you even have the guts? If you dare divorce Rhett, the sun will rise from the west. Of course I dare to divorce, on the condition that you return my money. Listen, Leah's son, I have no issue with you and Retchen having an affair. You can do whatever you want, but my money must be returned to me. What if I refuse? If you don't return it, I'll report you and Retchen for your affair to the military district. Let's see how you two can stay here after that." Leah's son's face changed. "How dare you? Why wouldn't I dare? Everyone knows about your shady dealings with Retchen these past 2 years. Retchen pulled strings to transfer you here as his secretary, then funneled our family's money to you. You used my money to buy appliances, clothes, jewelry, and lived the high life. All the neighbors saw it. If the organization investigates, your dirty little secrets with Retchen will be exposed. Ret was just helping me. You have no hands or feet. You're a crippled, dying person. I sneered. There are plenty of people around who need help more than you. Why would Retchen help only you and not others? You're a man and woman alone together, engaging in illicit affairs. The public's eyes are sharp, and everyone sees it clearly. Leah's son grew somewhat fearful. What exactly do you want? Do you realize this could ruin Ret? I know. What does that have to do with me? I sneered at Leah's son. I'm giving you just 3 days. Return my money immediately, or the only thing waiting for you and Retchen is utter ruin. Leah's son left in a sorry state, throwing down a threat as she went, telling me to wait and see. I'm waiting, all fired up and ready. If I don't provoke her a little, how would she act in advance? I'm waiting for Leah's son's underhanded tricks. Let's see who dies faster this time. The next 2 days passed uneventfully. Retchen stayed at the military barracks and never returned. I know he's waiting for me to go apologize and make up with him. In his dreams, I don't have time to deal with him. I've been busy handling matters non-stop. Since I'm parting ways with Retchen, I certainly won't let Retchen and Leah's son off easy. I sold everything of value that I had bought for the house. I gave away whatever couldn't be sold. I gave the sweaters I knitted for Retchen and the new clothes I bought to the wife of Instructor Jong at the East End. She was very grateful and pulled me aside to chat. Sister Jong asked me, "Has your chieftain not come home these past few days?" I nodded, and Sister Jong looked at me sympathetically. "Myra, you're a good person, and good people often get taken advantage of. There are some things I don't want to say, but I just can't stand seeing you treated this way. That Leah's son is no good. You need to be careful." "I know, and I don't care anymore. They can do whatever they want. It has nothing to do with me." "But you're pregnant, even if it's just for the sake of the baby. You need to think about yourself, and sometimes, no matter how much you endure or sacrifice, people still won't leave you alone." Sister Jong's words hit the nail on the head. Wasn't I the one who kept swallowing my pride and compromising in my past life, only to be schemed against by them in the end? I nodded and said, "Sister Jong, thank you for the reminder. I'll be careful. Even a rabbit bites when cornered, let alone a person. If they push me too far, I won't let them off easy." Seeing that I took her words to heart, Sister Jong lowered her voice. "You, watch out for that Xiao Li around Chieftain. There's something fishy going on between him and that Leah's son." Hearing this, I immediately pressed further. "How so, Sister Jong? I won't hide it from you. That Xiao Li is no good, taking advantage of my easygoing nature. He's been helping Leah's son bully me all along." Aunt Jong's expression turned serious when she heard me say that. She lowered her voice. "That Xiao Li and Leah's son are having an affair. I saw it with my own eyes." Aunt Jong's words made my heart skip a beat. I immediately recalled the frightened look on Xiao Li's face when I threatened to expose his shady dealings with Leah's son the other day. "So, is it true that Xiao Li and Leah's son have an improper relationship? But doesn't Leah's son like Retchen? Why did she get involved with Xiao Li?" I immediately asked sister-in-law Jong, "How could Leah's son take a liking to Xiao Li, a security guard? I always thought she was trying to hook up with Retchen." "I don't know about that, but I'm not lying. When Leah's son first came here, I saw with my own eyes Xiao Li coming out of Leah's son's house in the middle of the night, not just once, but several times. At the time, I thought they were dating, until later I realized Leah's son seemed to have her eyes on your chieftain." Sister-in-law Jong stopped there, saying no more. I fell into deep thought. In my past life, Xiao Li had always been protective of Leah's son, constantly helping her distort the truth and bully me. A significant reason why Retchen didn't believe me was because Xiao Li was aiding and abetting. In my past life, I could never understand why Xiao Li would twist the truth. I had always treated him well, or so I thought. Now, hearing what Aunt Jong said, I finally reached a conclusion. Could it be that Xiao Li was also one of Leah's son's admirers, charging into battle for the woman he loves? This explains clearly why Xiao Li would help Leah's son deal with me like that, because of Sister Zhong's words. I secretly became more vigilant and paid extra attention to Xiao Li and Leah's son, but once I started watching closely, sure enough, I discovered something suspicious. Xiao Li actually sneaked into Leah's son's house at night. I'm not sure if they were having an affair, but a man and a woman alone together in the dead of night can't be up to any good. Thinking of how helpless and pitiful I was when they schemed against me in my past life, a surge of hatred rose within me. I'll make sure this despicable couple gets what they deserve. I grabbed a basin and a stick from the house. I stood guard outside Leah's son's door, banging loudly while shouting at the same time, "Stop thief, catch the thief," in the dead of night. The noise of me banging the basin was so loud that soon all the neighbors woke up and came running to see what was happening. Pointing anxiously at Leah's son's house, I said, "I was going to the bathroom in the middle of the night and saw someone sneaking into Comrade Song's house. It must be a thief. We can't let them get away." No one doubted my words, especially Sister Zhong, who immediately instructed Zhong to lead a group to block the back windows. Others followed my lead and squatted by the front door, making a commotion. After some noise, the door finally opened. Leah's son and Xiao Li appeared before the crowd. I deliberately raised my voice, "So it's Xiao Li. What are you doing at Comrade Song's house in the middle of the night?" I have something to discuss with Comrade Song," Xiao Li stammered in response. "Something to discuss? What couldn't be said during the day that has to be said at 2 in the morning? Exactly, what could be so urgent in the middle of the night, unless you two?" Sister Zhong raised her voice, and Leah's son immediately denied. "There's nothing between us. Xiao Li was just concerned about my health and came to check on me." Who would believe such nonsense? Nobody bought it. Someone deliberately remarked, "Could it be that Comrade Song and Xiao Li are in a relationship? There's nothing wrong with dating. No need to be so secretive about it." "No, we're not dating." Leah's son shot me a venomous glare, vehemently denying any romantic involvement with Xiao Li. Xiao Li also refused to admit it, insisting he had only come to check on Leah's son out of concern, fearing something might happen to her while she was ill. In the end, it was Retshin who arrived and dispersed the noisy crowd. The onlookers scattered at Retshin's command, and I lost interest in watching the commotion. Preparing to leave, seeing her backer arrive, Leah's son immediately burst into tears. Xiao Li and I are completely innocent. He was just worried about me and came to bring me medicine. I never expected Comrade Mu to slander us like this." As Leah's son cried, Xiao Li also began to protest his innocence. Retshin scowled and scolded me. "All you do all day is stir up trouble. Why can't you just do something proper? Do you have any idea that your actions could drive someone to their death?" I sneered. "I only called for help because I saw someone sneaking into Comrade Song's house in the dead of night. Is that wrong? Besides, with so many guards around, why is it that no one else sneaks into Comrade Song's house at night, except for Xiao Li?" At my words, both Xiao Li and Leah's son turned pale. And Retshin also showed a suspicious expression. He's no fool, otherwise, he wouldn't have risen to such a high position. Seeing Retshin glance their way, Leah's son immediately collapsed to the ground, feigning unconsciousness. She was then rushed to the hospital. I sneered and turned back into the house. I had seen it clearly. Leah's son's gaze at me was filled with venomous hatred. Needless to say, she loathes me to the core. My stirring up the relationship between her and Xiao Li made Leah's son clearly aware that I already knew about their dirty little secret. Not wanting the relationship with Xiao Li to be exposed, Leah's son had no choice but to find ways to cover it up, to eliminate me as this major threat. I believe Leah's son will soon make her move, and what I fear most is her not making a move at all. Come into the trap, that's what makes it fun. This morning, I got up and went to work. And everyone I met along the way was talking about Leah's son and Xiao Li's affair. There were all kinds of rumors. I arrived at the office in high spirits and stayed in a great mood all day. At noon, Retshin came to my workplace to see me and started scolding me as soon as we met. Last night's incident has been clarified. It was indeed Xiao Li who went to check on Leah because he was worried she might have an episode. There's nothing between them, I sneered. Whether they have anything to do with each other is none of my business. You didn't have to come all the way here just to tell me this, did you? Of course, that's not the only reason I came. Myra Moo, you've been acting outrageously lately, to target Leah. You even tried to smear her reputation by insinuating an improper relationship with Xiao Li. Have you ever considered how much damage such accusations could do to a woman's reputation? I couldn't help but laugh in frustration. When did I slander them? I just saw someone sneaking into Leah's son's house and thought it was a thief. If Xiao Li was genuinely just concerned about Leah's son and wanted to check on her, couldn't he have knocked on the door openly? Why did he have to skulk around like a thief? As expected, it's true love. Retshin is still defending Leah's son. Xiao Li didn't want to disturb the neighbors, so he didn't knock. But you, what are you doing? Not sleeping in the middle of the night and just watching Leah's son. I'm warning you, I haven't settled the score with you over last time, so don't go stirring up more trouble. You're ridiculous. I've already said I only shouted because I thought it was a thief. I've explained it clearly enough. Are you just not getting it? Or are you deliberately picking a fight? Retshin slammed the table in anger. What kind of attitude is that? Leah's son ended up in the hospital because of your tantrum. And you still don't see anything wrong with yourself. I did nothing wrong. If there's any mistake, it's marrying you. Didn't you want a divorce? Fine, I agree. Let's do it now. Go find someone else to live with. But before we divorce, you must return my money. Retshin still thought I was the meek, submissive Myra Moo who lived only for him, daring to glare at me like that. Well, I won't indulge him. If he wants to make a scene, let's see who ends up humiliated. I turned up the volume while shouting and began wiping away tears. I've worked hard to save money for years to prepare for having a child, and you gave it all to Leah's son to buy appliances. Last time, you took my salary without even telling me and gave it to Leah's son to buy clothes, and the time before that, you gave my salary to Leah's son to buy cosmetics. My voice reached its loudest peak, and Retshin's face turned ashen as he rushed to cover my mouth. I bit down hard on his hand. He hadn't expected me to bite him and, in pain, let go and pushed me away. I immediately lay down and started making a huge scene. Didn't Retshin say I was an unreasonable shrew? Today, I'm going to show him what a truly unreasonable shrew looks like. As I lay on the ground making a huge fuss, I recounted every despicable thing Retshin had done. Retshin couldn't stay any longer. He had his pride to consider. He left with a face as dark as thunder. My colleagues and supervisors at work, having eavesdropped for quite some time, felt nothing but sympathy for me. Several married female co-workers came to console me, all the while subtly probing for details about Retshin and Leah's son's affair. In my past life, I cared about face. When bullied, I swallowed my grievances, believing family shame shouldn't be aired. And I didn't want others to look down on me. In this life, I don't want to stay with Retshin, so why should I cover up his disgrace? I spilled everything about Leah's son and Retshin's affairs without holding back. I knew soon the news about Leah's son and Retshin would spread far and wide. With so much gossip, I want to see if Leah's son would actually go to extremes and threaten her own life. After work in the evening, Retshin was unexpectedly at home. A rare occurrence. His hand, which I had bitten and injured, was bandaged as he sat gloomily on a chair in the living room. I acted as if I didn't see him and walked past him straight to the bedroom. Retshin had never been treated so coldly before. Every time we argued, I would shamelessly go to make up within 2 hours. Whether it was my fault or not, I always gave in first. This time, we had been in a cold war for several days. And today I bit him again, showing no intention of backing down. Retshin sat outside for a while and finally couldn't hold back. He pushed open the bedroom door and asked, "What's for dinner? Eat whatever you like. Why ask me?" I said coldly. "What kind of attitude is that? Myra Moo, I haven't even settled the matter of you biting me. And now you're giving me that look. Then how do you plan to account for injuring me?" I retorted sharply. Retshin was left speechless. After a brief silence while looking at the wound on my forehead, he said, "I didn't mean to, and I've already apologized to you." I sneered and turned my head away. He stood at the door for a moment before reluctantly walking in. "Let me take you out to eat. What would you like? Eat. You'd better pay back the money you owe me first. You owe me quite a bit." I held out my hand. A vein bulged on Retshin's forehead. He wanted to lose his temper but, for some reason, suppressed the anger rising in his chest. Myra, I know you're angry about me helping Leah's son. I didn't consider your feelings before, and that was my fault. I promise it won't happen again. I looked at Gretchen as if seeing a new continent. What do you mean? I've made things clear with Leah's son. From now on, she doesn't need to come to me for anything. She can go to the guards. She saved me before, and I've helped her find a job and done enough for her. I won't interfere in her affairs anymore. Let's just focus on our life together. That sounded somewhat reasonable, but who knows if it's true or not. I don't believe it anyway. Gretchen pulled me up. Let's go out for dinner. I know you need money, and from now on, I'll give you all my salary. I don't know what he's up to. I've never seen such a gentle and considerate Gretchen in 2 lifetimes. I was pulled out by Gretchen to have dinner. On the road, I encountered Leah's son, her eyes red and puffy. Seeing Gretchen and me, she staggered unsteadily as if a gust of wind could knock her over, looking utterly pitiful. Gretchen didn't fuss over Leah's son as he used to. Instead, he pretended not to see her and left directly with me. Not far away, I heard Leah's son's cry from behind. It seemed she had fallen. Listening to Leah's son's cries of pain, I silently counted numbers in my heart. 123. By the time I finished counting to 3, Gretchen turned his head. He rushed toward Leah's son without hesitation. Just like before, I smiled with relief. A dog can't change its habit of eating shit. This saying couldn't be more accurate. I didn't plan to have dinner and went home alone instead. Gretchen didn't return until late at night. He tried to push open our bedroom door, but I had locked it from inside. Unable to get in, Gretchen went to the guest room. In the morning, I got up and Gretchen was also awake. He even bought breakfast. Smiling at me as if nothing had happened. I got the fried dough sticks and soy milk you like. I sat down expressionlessly and started eating breakfast. Gretchen tried to explain. Leah's health is very poor. She has severe anemia. I put down my chopsticks. Who are you trying to disgust first thing in the morning? Gretchen was shocked by my icy attitude. He moved his lips, and I immediately followed up. I don't want to hear about irrelevant people or things. I'm not interested. It's ruining my mood. Gretchen wanted to lash out but forcibly held back, even attempting to explain to me, Myra, I can't just ignore her. She saved me. If it weren't for her, I would have died back then. I owe her my life. I've heard this meaningless talk too many times. I set down my chopsticks. Who you choose to help is your business. I don't care. You don't have to keep mentioning that you owe her a life. If it's really too hard to decide, just marry her. I'm ready to go to the Civil Affairs Bureau with you anytime. With those words, I stood up and left. Gretchen sat there watching my retreating figure, and I had no idea what he was thinking. Whatever he thinks has nothing to do with me. After all, before this, in my past life, I was already neglected and abandoned by him like this. After work in the evening, Gretchen came to pick me up at the office. He had bought groceries and personally cooked dinner, only realizing while cooking that many things were missing. Pots, pans, and utensils. Everything I had bought was gone. Leaving only what Gretchen had purchased himself, he exclaimed as if discovering a new continent. Myra, it seems like a lot of things are missing from our home. Yes, there were too many things, and I couldn't use them all, so I gave some away. I see. He didn't quite believe me. Especially since the things I gave away were either brand new or nearly new. How could they be unusable? During the meal, neither of us spoke, apart from the clinking of bowls and chopsticks. I kept my head down the whole time without saying a word. Gretchen kept looking at me. I could feel his gaze, but I didn't respond. Finally, he couldn't help but speak first. Myra, why aren't you wearing your wedding ring? I leisurely drank half a bowl of soup before replying. I sold the wedding ring. Why did you sell it? Gretchen asked in surprise. Why? How could he not know? I smiled wryly. Because I'm short on money. I don't have any money on me, and I need to use money. No one is kind enough to give me money willingly. So as someone who's short on cash, I had no choice but to sell the wedding ring. My words left Gretchen silent. He knew how much I treasured our wedding ring. After getting married, I had always reminded him to wear his wedding ring, but he had always refused, using inconvenience as an excuse. All along, it was only me, foolishly wearing that self-prepared wedding ring alone. I pushed away the dishes and stood up. ready to return to my room. I hadn't taken more than a few steps when Retshin's voice came from behind. When my salary comes in, I'll buy you a new ring. I let out a scoff without turning around, and he continued, Leah Sun's physique is simply too weak for military service. I've spoken with her and decided to send her back to her hometown for work, so she can be closer to her parents and family, making it easier for them to take care of her. Retshin's words made me turn my head. Did she agree? Retshin nodded. She agreed. Leah Sun is a reasonable person. She also felt she was causing us too much trouble and said she'd find a chance to apologize to you, to properly clear the air. I smiled ambiguously upon hearing this, and Retshin continued, Myra, my feelings for Leah Sun are purely gratitude. I've never had romantic feelings for her. If my past assistance led you to misunderstand, I sincerely apologize. I'm sorry. Such things won't happen again. I simply watched Retshin with a faint smile, which seemed to unsettle him. Myra, she has already agreed to leave here. These days she's busy with work handovers, but she said she'll find time to explain things to you. I hope you can talk to her calmly. Leah Sun actually wants to meet me for a detailed discussion. This is great news. I've been waiting for this day for so long. I smiled and said, Great. Please tell Leah Sun I'm ready to welcome her anytime, anywhere. Leah Sun came to see me 3 days later. I couldn't wait any longer to meet her. Leah Sun still looked as fragile as ever, as if a gust of wind could knock her over, but the moment she closed the door, ensuring it was just the two of us in the room, she instantly transformed into a different person. She glared at me viciously. Myra Moo, you wretched woman. You must be so pleased to finally have me kicked out, aren't you? Of course, watching you slink away like a stray dog with its tail between its legs brings me immense joy. As my words hung in the air, Leah Sun's face turned ashen with rage. You set me up, playing hard to get by threatening divorce to force Ret to send me away. You shameless bitch. I underestimated you. What you underestimated about me isn't just this. There's plenty more you don't know. Would you like me to spell it out for you in detail? I smiled at her and said, I know about your affair with Xiao Li. I know you've set your sights on Retshin and tried to seduce him. And I know you've been plotting against me. You must have prepared quite a few tricks for today, didn't you? How did you know? Leah Sun was startled by my bluntness, her arrogance vanishing instantly as she stammered in response. How I know is none of your concern. Now let me guess what you're planning to do next. You're going to fake a fall and accuse me. Xiao Li is already waiting outside, ready to rush in when you scream and testify that I harmed you. I smiled as I approached Leah Sun, whose face had turned pale. So go ahead and fall. Scream for help. I'm waiting for your performance. Leah Sun froze, staring at me in shock. I grabbed her hair and forcefully slammed her head against the nearby table. Leah Sun opened her mouth to scream, but a rag was swiftly and precisely stuffed into it. I casually picked up the brick I had prepared earlier and struck Leah Sun's stomach repeatedly. Didn't she falsely accuse me in her past life of pushing her, causing her to lose her uterus and become infertile? In this lifetime, I'll let her have her way and fulfill her wishes. I struck Leah Sun's abdomen fiercely, blow after blow. I watched as her face twisted and changed color, as blood flowed beneath her. Only when I saw her sink into true unconsciousness did I finally release Leah Sun. Then she raised her voice and shouted, Someone come quickly, there's been an accident. Xiao Li was the first to rush in, and without even looking, he cried out. Intentional assault. How could you harm Comrade Song like this? You're so vicious. I smiled at Xiao Li and said, Don't dawdle, hurry and take her to the hospital. If we're late, she might really never wake up. After all, she's had a miscarriage with heavy bleeding, and losing the child might mean losing her uterus too. How did you know? Xiao Li was stunned. How I know is none of your concern. Listen to me and take her to the hospital. If it's too late, she'll die. You don't want people to know you're the father of the child in her belly, do you? Xiao Li, pale and trembling uncontrollably, picked up Leah Sun, who was bleeding profusely, and rushed to the hospital. I followed them. Leah Sun's uterus could not be saved. Just like in the previous life, it was removed. Throughout the entire process, Xiao Li waited outside the operating room, his face deathly pale. I stood with my arms crossed, watching Xiao Li and couldn't stop laughing. After several hours of surgery, Leah Sun was wheeled out of the operating room unconscious. I asked Xiao Li with a smile, "Aren't you going to inform your superior? Given Leah Sun's current condition, your superior must be frantic with worry. How about I keep an eye on Leah Sun for you while you personally go and notify Retshin?" Xiao Li didn't dare to inform Retshin. With a thud, he knelt down in front of me. I looked at Xiao Li coldly and said, "Now you're scared. Weren't you fearless when you were having fun with Leah Sun? And you even thought of framing me to turn the tables." Wishful thinking. Xiao Li kept kowtowing until his forehead was bleeding. I watched this despicable and shameless creature with icy disdain, watching him bleed from his head. I slowly called for a stop. "Hold on, what do you plan to do about this?" "I'll make Leah leave this place. I promised to make her give up her thoughts and never disturb you and the chief again." "Is that so?" I laughed a few times. "No, how can you leave? Leah Sun must not go. Please, I beg you." Xiao Li continued to kowtow, but I waved my hand to stop him. "I have a way to make all your wishes come true." When I got home, Retshin was still cooking in the kitchen, for the past 3 days. It's as if he's become a different person, making dinner every evening. Seeing me return, Retshin flashed me a smile. "Give me 2 minutes, the meal will be ready soon." I poured myself a glass of water and sipped it slowly. While Retshin busied himself arranging the dishes, he served me a large bowl of rice. "Eat more. Pregnant women have bigger appetites. From now on, you should have 2 bowls." Without a word, I took it and began eating with my head down. As Retshin eagerly piled food onto my plate, after silently finishing most of the bowl, Retshin finally spoke up. "So, Myra, has Leah Sun come to see you?" "I've already looked." I nodded. "What did you two talk about?" "Nothing much." I continued eating. Retshin didn't get the answer he wanted, so he tried to probe indirectly, asking, "Did she mention when she's leaving?" "You'll have to ask her about this." "I don't know." As soon as I finished speaking, Retshin's expression froze. I continued eating with my head down, knowing Retshin must have already looked for Leah Sun but couldn't find her. Not finding her meant he couldn't know what Leah Sun had told me, which was why he came to fish for information from me. To be honest, he was genuinely worried about Leah Sun. What a pity. I sighed inwardly, and soon the sound of a car came from outside. Xiao Li rushed in. "Chief, something's happened. Comrade Song is in trouble." Retshin sprang to his feet. And I also put down my chopsticks to look at Retshin. Retshin didn't look at me. His gaze was fixed on Xiao Li, staring at the injury on Xiao Li's forehead. Retshin's expression was extremely grim. "What happened?" Xiao Li didn't dare to look at me, keeping his head down and pretending to wipe away tears. "It's very serious. She had her uterus removed and is now unconscious in the hospital." "Chief, Comrade Song, she's in such a terrible state." Hearing Xiao Li's words, Retshin looked utterly disbelieving. "How is that possible? How could this happen out of the blue?" "Chief, you must go to the hospital quickly." As Xiao Li's voice trailed off, Retshin immediately started walking. When he reached the door, I coughed, and upon hearing my voice, he stopped in his tracks. "Myra, I'm going to the hospital to see Leah Sun. I'll be back soon." I looked at Retshin and spoke slowly. "Retshin, are you sure about this, Myra? This isn't the time for impulsive actions. Leah is unconscious after the incident. I have to go see her and figure out what happened." Since Retshin had made his own decision, it was beyond my control. I nodded and stopped trying to stop him. Retshin left and never came back. I calmly washed up and went to bed. Before sleeping, I checked my money. Only 5,000 yuan. This amount was far from enough to start a business down south. The next morning, I was startled awake. When I opened my eyes, Retshin had already rushed to my bedside. He grabbed my collar and yanked me up from the bed. "What a vicious heart you have, Myra Mu. How could you be so cruel and shameless? Why would you do this to Leah Sun? She was already preparing to leave. Why couldn't you just let her go?" Retshin gripped my hand with such force that I struggled to breathe. I clawed at his hand desperately until the pain made him release me. "Myra Mu, you've disappointed me so much. Committing such an unforgivable act, you might as well prepare for prison." I didn't say a word, just stared coldly at Retshin, waiting for his outburst to subside before I finally spoke to him. "You don't want to hear my explanation." "Explain what?" You did such a terrible thing to her, caused her such harm. As a woman, don't you understand the pain of being unable to bear children? You make it impossible for me to forgive you. Fine, then don't forgive me, Gretchen, if I've done wrong. Send me to jail. You're utterly obstinate, completely obstinate. Don't you feel even the slightest bit of remorse or regret at this moment? How innocent Leah's son is. He yelled at me for a while longer until he was exhausted and finally stopped. Myra Moo, what are you going to do now? What do you plan to do? Leave everything to the police to handle. If you leave it to the police, you're finished. Myra Moo, this is a crime. You'll be sentenced. Fine, then sentence me. I'm not afraid anyway. You're utterly incorrigible. Gretchen angrily kicked over the chair. After punching the wall a few more times, I watched him coldly, waiting for him to speak first. In my past life, he was the one who initiated the divorce with me. This life should be no different. Sure enough, after venting his anger for a while, Gretchen calmed down. Myra, I don't want you to go to jail. Do you understand? I don't want you to go to jail. Yeah, I don't want to go to jail either. I nodded. You made a mistake this time, and you must admit it. Go and sincerely apologize to Leah's son. And then, just an apology. I pressed further. Of course not. You've hurt Leah's son. This is a serious matter. You can't just do nothing to make amends. What do you need me to do to make it right? You should go hide in the countryside for a while. I'll calm Leah's son down first. Stay there until I've settled things with Leah's son. Then I'll bring you back. Exactly the same words as in my past life. He didn't mention divorce at all, just had me sign an apology letter of commitment, telling me to go back to the countryside for pregnancy care and return only after everything was resolved. I couldn't help but laugh. All right, I promise you. Gretchen's letter of apology was quickly brought to me for signing. I knew it was the divorce agreement and signed my name without looking. Seeing me sign, Gretchen sighed in relief. Myra, pack your things first. I'll send you away. I nodded. I have no money. Could you give me what's mine? Gretchen agreed, though I'm not sure where he got the money. Probably borrowed it. Anyway, that very night he came back and handed me $2,000. I tucked the money safely into my pocket, and on the day of my departure, Xiao Li gave me another $3,000. This was originally my money that Leah's son had swindled from Gretchen. Now that it was returned to its rightful owner, I accepted it without any guilt. On the day of departure, Gretchen was supposed to personally see me off, but he stood me up at the last minute due to an unexpected matter. This was just as well, as I had no intention of returning to his hometown to be treated like a beast of burden, now that the divorce was finalized. Dealing with the abortion became much simpler. I went to the hospital to get rid of the unwanted child in my belly. Then after a month of recovery, I took 10,000 yuan and headed south by train. The days of struggling alone away from home are bittersweet, but living for myself keeps me giving my all. I fear neither hardship nor exhaustion, with my heart set solely on making money. After a year of hard work away from home, I finally managed to secure my own shop through my own efforts. While purchasing wholesale goods, I ran into someone I once knew, a distant cousin from Gretchen's hometown whom I'd only met briefly before. Gretchen's distant cousin was very surprised to see me. Myra, what are you doing here? Do you know Gretchen has been looking for you for a long time? I quietly looked at Gretchen's distant cousin as she told me that Gretchen's mother had an accident and was paralyzed, needing someone to take care of her. Then, after calling Gretchen, he finally realized I hadn't returned to his hometown. Gretchen's distant cousin asked me, "Why did you go south to do business?" I smiled faintly. "Didn't Gretchen tell you about this? You should ask him for the details. What about your child? It must have been born by now, right? I remember you were pregnant at the time. And Gretchen also mentioned you were several months along when you left. The child is dead, gone." Gretchen's cousin's eyes widened in shock. But I was busy attending to other guests and didn't continue the conversation with her. I never expected Gretchen to find me. One night after I finished work, Gretchen suddenly appeared out of nowhere. He was carrying bags of stuff in his hands and called out to me affectionately, just like before, "Myra." I glanced at him indifferently, and he forced a smile. "I heard you were here. Myra, why did you come here without saying a word? I had such a hard time finding you. Why look for me? Aren't you married? Shouldn't you be spending a long, happy life with Leah's son, generation after generation? Why think of looking for me now, caught red-handed by me?" Retshin's face flushed with embarrassment. He actually felt ashamed. "Myra, I didn't mean to deceive you. It's just that Leah's son was in such a terrible state back then, and she insisted it was your doing. I didn't want you to go to jail, for you and the baby. I had no choice but to resort to this desperate measure, agreeing to divorce you and marry her. I never intended to marry her, it was just a temporary solution. I just couldn't bear to see you in prison or suffering." I couldn't help but laugh. "Retshin, do you really think I'd believe you now? Do you still take me for the fool I once was?" Retshin's expression shifted repeatedly as he offered his first humble apology. "Myra, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I was truly wrong. All right. If you're here to apologize to me, I've received it. As for whether I accept it or not, that's not something you need to concern yourself with. You can leave now." Myra, I want to see our child. I bought gifts for the baby." This made me burst into laughter, laughing until tears streamed down my face. Retshin looked at me, bewildered, as I laughed for a long time, truly finding it all so absurd. Finally, I laughed until I was exhausted. "Retshin, where did you get the confidence that I would give birth to your bastard?" Retshin's face turned from red to white, which was quite amusing. I continued laughing. "You really have some nerve, don't you, divorcing me to marry your beloved Leah's son, then expecting me, completely in the dark, to bear your children, carry on your family line, and take care of your parents for the rest of my life, serving as your lifelong old maid. Don't you think you're utterly shameless?" "I'm not. You are exactly that kind of person, don't deny it. Otherwise, why would you marry Leah's son? Why were you in such a hurry to send me away? Why did it take you over a year after I left to think of contacting me? If you had even a shred of conscience, you wouldn't have abandoned me when I was pregnant, would you?" Let me guess why you came to me. Judging by your appearance, things must not be going well for you. After all, Chief Shen always travels with his guards. Where's your loyal guard?" "Xiao Li." Retshin was speechless, and I continued to laugh. "You picked up a worn-out shoe that Xiao Li had already played with and treated it like a treasure. Now you're getting your just deserts, aren't you? Do you know why you've ended up like this? It's because I reported you. When I left a letter for your competitor. It was you. You're the one who reported me. Why? How dare he have the nerve to ask me why?" "Retshin, did you think I left because I was clueless and deceived by you?" "Wrong. All of this was my plan. At this point, I have nothing left to hide. I want to see the priceless expression on Retshin's disgusting face when he learns the truth. I knew Xiao Li and Leah's son were plotting against me. I knew Xiao Li and Leah's son were having an affair. I knew Leah's son's act of saving you back then was fake. It was all a scheme by Xiao Li and Leah's son to deceive you, just to get you to arrange a good job for Leah's son. Who would have thought you'd fall for Leah's son's act so easily? So they changed their plan at the last moment." Retshin's expression began to darken, and I knew his heart was being torn apart. "I know you've shifted your affections and fallen for Leah's son. How could someone as disgusting and filthy as you deserve to hold such a high position? So, I gave you both a grand gift. Knowing Leah's son deceived you, knowing your position would be affected. So you harmed Leah's son and Xiao Li, leaving them disabled, and now you've lost your job too." I took a deep breath, watching Retshin's ashen face. "All of this was a grand gift I carefully planned for you. Do you like my gift?" Retshin turned livid with rage at my confession, and I continued to smile, adding fuel to the fire. "You married a worn-out shoe that nobody else wanted, treating it like a treasure, and then lost your chance for promotion and wealth because of it. Now you dare to dream of coming back to me for reconciliation, even thinking I'd bear your children. What makes you think you deserve that? Is it because you have a thick face?" Retshin jumped up in a rage, trying to hit me, but I wasn't about to tolerate it. "Help, assault, harassment," as I shouted. I gave him a hard kick between the legs. Retshin doubled over in pain, and the people around, hearing my cries for help, quickly gathered around. I accused Retshin of molesting me, and soon kind-hearted people escorted Retshin to the police station, once a high and mighty figure. Retshin was full of glory, but now, no one indulges the down-and-out Retshin. Watching my husband being so intimate with another woman made me tremble with anger. He lost his job, lost everything, and then his mother at home had an accident. Retchen still wanted to keep using me as his fool. Thinking I loved him and could be easily deceived by his sweet talk, but having been reborn, how could I possibly jump into that fire pit again? Retchen didn't leave, he stayed around, and seeing my business doing well, he even plotted to win me back. In the end, the heavens couldn't stand it anymore. On a rainy night, he was hit by a car and lost both his legs. Retchen became disabled and will spend the rest of his life in a wheelchair. This is his retribution. He had been asking around, trying to get me to see him. I refused. I've already witnessed his downfall and am satisfied. There's no need to disgust myself again. From now on, I'll walk my path of flowers, and he can live his life of poverty and misery. So be it.